I welcome you to the opening session of Reboot 2021. Reboot 2021 has become very necessary because of what I can call a very sorry scenario with relationships all over the world. I think the best way to put it is that we need to declare a state of emergency for relationships all over the world. Marriages have come crashing down. Marriages have reached the stage where the marriage institution has lost its attraction. The marriage institution is no longer the envy of our world. It's no longer the envy of the next generation. It's no longer admirable. It's no longer attractive. It's no longer the aspiration of anybody. And so we need to declare a state of emergency. As a matter of fact, marital crisis has reached a pandemic scale. And so if something is not done unintentionally, we're going to have a situation where there is no future. Now, one of the reasons why God put marriage in place, well, we understand from the Holy Book, is to raise godly seed. And why the devil is on the rampage, on the attack of marital institutions, is to fight, defeat, and truncate that all-important divine objective to put in place a heritage, a posterity that is formidable, that is forceful, and that is strategically positioned to establish God's will and His kingdom on the earth. And so it's so important. This reminds me of the story I stumbled into earlier in the day. I belong to a community, a relationship community, and when I stopped over there earlier in the day, there was a situation. Now let me narrate the situation to you as if I'm asking you a question. What will you do if you stumbled on your wife's device and realized that your wife has given out a loan to X, a loan to a whooping amount of about $7,000? That's not a little money. What would you do if you realize that has been done without putting you in the picture? What would you do? What would you do if you find out in the message, by reason of the thank you the ex was passing on to your wife, you realize that she had told him it's okay, even if he wants to pay in kind, it's okay. What would you do if you read through the messages and you realize that your wife was telling her ex that she misses him so much and that she wishes, she desires if they could hang out? What would you do? Now that was the situation this guy found himself, and he was asking if it was okay to call a family meeting with her mother and her brothers and let them know what their sister is up about, what their sister is up to. He said when he saw that, he couldn't talk for 7 months. Now, if I put that in the open for discussion, a lot of us are going to have a lot to say. Some are going to speak for him, some are going to speak against him. But at the end of the day, that is the sorry state that marriages are in. How in the world did a marriage get to the point where either the wife is no longer getting what it is she aspired for, and now she has been tempted, lured, seduced, and dragged into this kind of a mess? How bad did the relationship get to that the husband was completely oblivious that what he called marriage was no longer in existence? How in the world did it get so bad that if she wasn't getting what it is she expected, what she aspired for, what she prayed for, what she went into the marriage for, what is it was she not getting that she couldn't talk with her husband and began to hook up with her ex. Whatever that was, it portrays, it conveys a clear picture of the sorry, very sorry state of marriages all over the world. This is not just outside the church walls, it's everywhere. Today, getting married to a Christian is not guaranteed for marital bliss. No, it's not. It's not. It takes more than that. And so it's so important that we get it right. And it is for situations like this that Reboot 2021 has become necessary. Reboot 2021 is put together by the LOVELIFE Institute. The LOVELIFE Institute is a learning community. It's a learning community. We have an amazing curriculum. We offer LOVELIFE solutions for helping you gain an edge. And then, in your relationship, gain an edge in your relationship, gain an edge in your marriage, and then to achieve your dream love life. If you go through our WhatsApp page, the learning community, you see the vision, the mission, the motto, and some basic information that can guide you. So Reboot 2021 is a fresh start event, to help for us, members of the learning community, a great start for our relationships for the year 2021, especially after an incredibly turbulent 2020. Like I said when I introduced and advertised the program, even our phones come to that point where they begin to hang and drag. Sometimes it's because of network quality, sometimes it's because of a lot of issues with viruses, with overused RAM. A lot of things can make our phones begin to hang annoyingly. And a lot of the times, even when you call the service providers and the customer care to complain, after asking you basic questions, basically what they're going to ask you to do is switch off the phone, probably take off the SIM, allow for some time, put back the SIM, restart your phone. Most of the times, when you restart the phone, you will discover that the phone jacks back to life. Everything is moving on again. That's all it takes. And so I believe that rebooting is what most relationships need to jump back again to life, to jumpstart them. So Reboot 2021 will recharge our relationships. It will improve our relationships. Put them in a place and in a position for a restart. The purpose of our opening session class is to discuss how do we reboot for 2021. How do we reboot our relationships for 2021? So it's okay to learn, even if you're long married. There's so much you can learn. You can also share with your children, your son-in-laws, your daughter-in-laws. How do we reboot our relationships, our marriages for 2021? Whether we're already married, whether we're singles, how are we going to do that? That's what we're going to discuss. And let me begin this way. Number one, things are changing, and they're changing very fast. You got to be fast to catch up with the way things are changing, and you got to understand how change works if you're going to catch up with life. Everything is changing. Number one, how we communicate is changing. How we make money is changing. How we parent our children is changing. How we spend the money we make is changing. How we worship and love on God is changing. How we relate with our spouses is changing. How we do life generally is changing. Everything is changing. They're not just changing, they are changing on a fast lane. They are changing so fast that if we're not careful, we can't catch up with them. And so if we want to be able to deal with the issues that 2020 has brought on us, that 2021 is yet going to bring on us, then we must understand how change functions. And if there is one thing COVID-19 and all the wahalas of 2020 brought with it, is change. It brought change. The truth about it is that life as we used to know it has changed forever, and like I will humorously say, no thanks to COVID-19. And so as we deal with the changes that life has thrown on us, COVID-19, it was amazing. COVID-19 was such an amazing experience that it trapped a lot of us in the same house for 5 days. 2 people who go to work every morning at 6, come back at 7 p.m., hardly spend 1 good hour together without even knowing that our communication, quality communication has died, intimacy has died, connection has died, bonding has died, and we're thriving without knowing. But COVID-19 trapped us in the same space continuously for 5 days, and we lost our minds. 5 days and we lost our sanity. We were trapped in the same house and only realized we were total strangers. We never understood ourselves. Life was so boring. I was sharing with some people, and I asked them, if I put you and your spouse in the same room for 30 days and took your phones away, took laptops away, took books away, let's not even do 30 days, keep you for 7 days and took everything away from you, all you have in that space are chairs and tables and beds. The only other thing we can make available for you is probably games. What will that situation bring? How will your relationship turn out? You'll be amazed that a lot of relationships will end on the 3rd day. A lot of relationships will not survive after 7 days. A lot of relationships will die if we do 30 days. And yet there are other relationships that 7 days together, all distractions taken away, will be the highest possible imaginable form of bliss. It's amazing. That's what COVID-19 brought to our, that's the reality that came with COVID-19. A lot of people realized that they didn't have a marriage. And so as we go into 2021, it's so important that we are prepared for what 2021 will bring with it. There are 2 kinds of changes that life will throw at you. That a pandemic, the situation we're faced with and we're going to be faced with in this year, there are 2. See, change is a constant, but oftentimes some changes come because you plan for it. You plan to change your car. You plan to move your children from a cheaper school to an expensive school. You prepared for the wahala. And so when they began to demand for the fees, you probably have a plan already set out for it. So it's easy, you have control. But there are other changes that come that just bump into your space, take you aback, and you can lose bearing, except you are intentional. That's what COVID came with. Changes that we never expected, we never planned for, we never prepared for. That's why we're losing our bearing. But when this kind of change comes, you want to do 2 possible reactions are going to come into play. The truth about it is that many relationships are still struggling. Many relationships are still grounded due to these changes. And as we go into 2022, in 2021, in its full stream, as we get done with the first quarter of 2021, many relationships are going to come under more pressure. And for crying out loud, pressure is not a bad thing. Pressure is not a bad thing. Pressure is a part of life. The sooner we accept that and adjust to it, the better for us. And so it's so key and it's so critical that we position ourselves and get ready for pressure. If you're familiar with the oil and gas sector, there are storage facilities. Every one of them are going to go through pressure tests to determine their suitability for what it is they're going to be used for. That's exactly what life does. Every one of us will go through pressure tests. And it's going to be every day. Now, the benefit of pressure is that, or one of the benefits of pressure is that it reveals us to us. A lot of us don't even know ourselves. A lot of us don't even know the weights and the sins that easily beset us. A lot of us don't even know our weaknesses, don't even know how deteriorated we have become, how bad our communication skills have become, how impatient we have become. A lot of us don't even know. So pressure will reveal us to us. Pressure reveals us to the other people in our lives. A lot of us don't even know the people living with them in the same house. It's until when pressure comes, the real person emerges. And that's why I can't put it together how people get married to certain people they get married to without taking them through pressure tests, or allowing them go through pressure tests, or observing them when they go through pressure tests. Sometimes we're even the problem. People are going through pressure tests and we go deliver them out of the test too soon, without letting the test reveal them to themselves, reveal them to us, and put them in that place where they can adjust, adapt, and develop themselves. And so that's what it does. Let me give you an example. You cannot, when you slap someone because they step on you, and you claim that you slap them because they step on you, you know you're lying. Yeah, you're lying. Because several other people will find themselves in the same situation and not slap anybody. The reason they didn't slap anybody is because slapping people is not part of their nature. So the reason you slapped somebody was because that's who you really are. They cannot make you become who you are not. Listen, if I keep a bottle of water here and push it down suddenly, unexpectedly to it, no matter how sudden the jolt, it cannot spill kerosene. If I push it down and kerosene comes out, that's what it is. That's what it was made up of. That's what was stacked up in there. So pressure only brings out what's trapped on the inside of you. You slap people because that's who you are. Because that's what is in you. That's your nature. No one can draw out from you what's not there, what's not in you. And so two things you can do when you come under pressure is either you decide to cave in, adopt, and adjust to the pressure, to the change. That sounds good, but it's not the best. Why? When changes come that you weren't expecting, you weren't prepared for, you didn't plan for, and you cave in, you adopt or adjust to it, then you better get ready to keep caving in, adapting, and adjusting. Simply because such changes you didn't prepare for will lead to more changes you didn't prepare for. And the more the changes come and you keep caving in, adjusting, and adapting, the more you lose control. You have to keep adjusting and caving in. And if there is one thing I don't like finding myself in a situation where I lose control. I hate to lose control. I hate to lose control. It doesn't give me the opportunity to decide where I'm going, when I want to get there, how I want to get there, and what it is I want to get there. The second thing you can do is, instead of caving in, is to strategize and invent your own change. Strategize and introduce your own change. That's it. That's the best way to deal with it, because it brings about control. It helps you to maximize these changes, though you didn't prepare for them, you didn't plan for them. But it helps you by strategizing and introducing your own. Listen, what that does for you is that you are not just adjusting, you are not just adopting, you are not just adapting to new normals. You know, that's the new language we have to deal with, new normals. you're not just, caving into new normals. No, 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 no. If we keep caving into what is called new normals, then we're going to lose direction. No. No, instead, you establish your own new normal. That's the best thing to do. Establish your own new normals. If you do that, it will provide for you, number one, direction comes in, and number two, it helps you attain and achieve the results you need or the results you set out for. You can't continue to be in a situation where you are begging for life. No, no, no. I know what's going on in your mind. How do we strategize and invent our own change? How do we strategize and introduce our own change? It's simple. Number one, as a couple, come together to kickstart the year. Come together, evaluate your performance as a couple for last year. I won't be amazed at how many couples, it's already February 1st, and they've not sat down to evaluate. They've not sat down to look at yesterday to plan for today and tomorrow. It's amazing how we do all of that evaluation in our job, in our businesses, in our organizations. And we do not think that our marital union, which is probably the most important organization we find ourselves in, we don't even think it deserves that. And yet, no matter how you thrive in business, in career, in ministry, if you crash in marriage, you realize how of no effect, of no consequence. You realize how important marriage is, and of no consequence, these other things you think is more important than your love life. When your love life fails, everything fails. Nothing makes sense. And so couples need to sit down and evaluate how they fared last year. And in evaluating that, there are a lot of important areas that couples need to look at. One of the areas is you need to ask yourself, how emotionally healthy were we last year as a couple, individually and together? What is our emotional intimacy quotient? How emotionally intimate were we last year? You need to do that. You need to evaluate that. You need to look at it and find out what it is you need to do about your emotional health or intimacy. You need to look at your spiritual intimacy. Oh, that's a big challenge. People go to church, but there is no spiritual intimacy. You need to look at how effective your communication was. Because a lot of the times, everything crashes on the altar of a lack of communication. You need to look at your physical intimacy, your sex life, and your love life. You need to look at it. How did we fare in 2020 when it comes to physical intimacy? How did we fare when it comes to how we handle money? It's just like the story I started with. A lady gives out $7,000 to her ex. Her husband is not aware. I wonder what in the world people think marriage is all about. I can't put it together. I'm still trying to figure out how things got that bad. The man didn't know. I'm still wondering how things got that bad and the woman didn't talk. Or was she talking and that guy wasn't listening? Something was definitely wrong. And nobody could smell the coffee. I'm amazed at how many relationships are sour and dead. And a lot of the partners in the relationship are so oblivious what is going on. I'm amazed. I'm amazed how relationships go on. One person is head over heels fulfilled, and the other partner is completely bored, dissatisfied, confused, frustrated, disillusioned. And the other partner is so blank, is so dumb, is so daft, is completely unaware. Because people don't talk in our relationships. See, in most relationships, we only talk when something goes wrong. And so it's like, honey, we need to talk. When you come back from work today, we need to talk. Excuse me. Do we have to wait till things get that bad? And then we only talk when we need to talk? Listen, if you wait to talk when you need to talk, you may not have a marriage to talk about. I repeat, if you wait to talk only when you need to talk, then you may not have a marriage to talk about. No, we can't wait for that. No, we can't do relationships without evaluation. How emotionally, how connected are you guys? We need to sit down and discuss what is our vision goals. No, what was our vision goal for this marriage when we started? What was our vision goal for this marriage last year? How much of it did we achieve? Why didn't we achieve what we didn't achieve? What are the areas of improvement? Humorously, I will ask, if I met your spouse in Ibadan and you are in Lagos, and I were to ask, what's the vision goal for your marriage, for your relationship, for your home, for the first quarter of this year, or for the last quarter of this year, Q4? Is it probable that their answer will be as good as yours? Or will they say something else and you say something else? Or will they say, well, nothing clearly? People will just answer me to answer for the sake of giving an answer. How in the world do we intend to run matrimony without organization? And how in the world do we expect to get results without putting in what it takes to get the kind? Why is it that it is always a marriage? People just think that a good marriage will just happen on its own. I can put it together. Good marriages don't just happen. People intentionally make them happen. And so you need to sit down and discuss about how you fared last year in your personal development goals. That is, if you even have any. What was the development goals for you together, and then for you individually? How far did you go? What hindered you? What did you accomplish? Did you exceed your plans? You gotta sit down and talk. You gotta sit down and talk. You need to sit down and review your conflict management strategy. A relationship where when things are going in a certain way, you don't have the liberty to talk because it will be misunderstood. In most marriages, communication doesn't take place because it will always lead to a quarrel. It will always lead to a fight. So the best thing is not to talk. I wonder how in the world people survive in those kind of relationships. No, I can put it together. The entire design of God for marriage is defeated. Excuse me, marriage is not a human idea. It's completely a divine product, and it can only thrive when it is operated within the space, the provisions of its manufacturer. In the world, the home, love should be the freest place where both of you are naked and not ashamed. How would one be in a relationship where you're not at liberty to talk? How constraining, how defeating, how imprisoning will that be? How frustrating. Trapped in the same room for life with such, I don't know how to put it together. No, you guys need to talk. You got to talk, whatever that will lead to. You got to talk. If you don't talk soon enough, you won't believe what comes out of it. You need to sit down and discuss your career, your professional life. You need to sit down and discuss your health, what it is now, and what you want your health to be like. I'm talking about your physical fitness now. Listen. And of course, for each week, as we continue with Reboot 2021, each speaker will be taking each of these items and breaking them down professionally. A lot of our speakers are professionals, experts in their respective fields. So they're going to pick up each of these as areas and break them down and help us comprehend what they are and how we can utilize them to maximize our dream love life, an amazing love life. You need to evaluate how you did parenting last year. There's so much to talk about. Probably your parenting style needs to change. Listen, probably the way you are doing parenting, that's why your children have gone haywire. How in the world do we keep at a style when it's not producing the results we need? How in the world do we do relationship without consultation? Listen, it's difficult to follow a leader, a car that is parked. It's difficult to follow a leader, you don't know where they're going. You don't know their vision. Even for children, it's difficult to follow parents. You can't tell where they're going. You don't know their direction. You don't know what it is that they are up to. You don't even know what their plans are for you in its clearest details. It's difficult to follow a leader you don't understand. And it takes communication. It takes consultation. It takes sharing together to understand your spouse, whether you're the man or whether you're the woman. We need to evaluate our understanding of each partner's needs. See, people come into marriage with expectations, with aspirations. Listen, no matter how fantastic you are, you come into marriage with a desire for love, to be loved, with a desire to be better. Every partner has a unique, peculiar need. Some people need their emotional tank filled. Some people need their all kinds of things. So it's so important that you know what the peculiar needs of your partner is. You need to know whether those needs are being met. You need to know whether there are areas you need to improve and strategize on how you're doing the marriage with the person. And so you guys need to sit down and look at what are your needs, itemize it. What are my needs, I itemize it. We put it together and see whether we're making a headway. So much to talk about. Now, when you have sat down to evaluate your performance in the previous year, the next thing to do is to use your findings to project and plan for the new year. It's simple management, and all of us, a lot of us are experts at this. It's just that we have refused to deploy it in our relationship. So use your finding to project, use your finding to plan for the new year. When your plan is effective and solid, no matter the pressure that comes with the new year, no matter the changes prepared for or unprepared for, expected or sudden that comes, you have a formidable front that can deal with challenges and changes as they come. It's so important. It's so key. Listen, I'll give you an example. Listen, when change comes, especially the one you were not expecting, it brings shock. And every time shock comes, it brings stress. That is a constant. And the unique thing about change, shock, and stress is that they bring mental health issues with them. They bring mental health issues with them. That's why a lot of us are having blood pressure. No, they bring those things with them. And one thing you must understand about mental health issues is that when you are having challenges in your mind, you begin to snap at your partner. And before long, except we become intentional with our adversity management, the next thing that follows is that we become very erratic, we become very unbearable. And even when you become erratic and unbearable, sometimes you don't even know. Sometimes you know, but you are so helpless because it's a state of the mind. It's a mental health issue. Mental health issues are ailments of different grades and categories in themselves. Until we receive therapy and are adjusted in our minds, we continue to snap, we continue to be unbearable, we continue to be erratic until there is a complete breakdown of communication. Communication becomes affected, bonding and connection breaks down, and before you know it, a very nice partner begins to be not so nice again. And before you know it, things are falling apart and nothing is working. It's so important that we do these evaluations and begin to look at appropriate actions. Listen, all objects, even if a marriage that is struggling, will remain at a permanent state of rest, if at all they will not deteriorate, until an appropriate force is applied to them. It's a physicist's rule, and there's nothing you can do about it. So you want to be intentional. You want to engage your mind in healthy activities. You want to do a lot of exercises, physical exercises, to ease off the tension. You want to do a lot of physical exercises to ease off the boredom, the mental pressures, and the mental health issues. It's so important that you do exercises. It's so important that you do a lot of reading. I'm amazed at how many people only read before when they're looking for spouses and partners. That is it they do. I'm amazed at how many people have not read one book on relationships, on marriage since they got married. I'm amazed. I'm amazed. I'm amazed at how many relationships don't read any book until there's a crisis. I can't put it together. How people want marriages to work without upgrading their knowledge about relationships and marriage. I don't know why we are so miracle prone that we don't even understand that there is what is called working of miracles. Miracles themselves don't just happen. That is what is called the working of miracles. You got to work miracles if you are going to have or experience miracles. It's so key, it's so important, it's so fundamental. So we need to read. Reading has the advantage of reinforcing our convictions, where those convictions are right. Reading has the benefit of exposing our stupidity, our foolishness, our arrogance, how idiotic we are. Reading has a way of, reading will change you. Reading has the benefit of rubbing our minds with higher minds, more complicated minds, in such a way that we gain an ascendancy in our knowledge and wisdom base. And then as we begin to apply truth, it's transformational. A lot of our marriages will just move to the next level by exposure to truth. We need to do a lot of meditation. Just relax and think deeply. Just ease off the tension by meditation. I don't want to talk about meditation now. It's in 3 levels. Deep thoughts, then talking to yourself, then talking out loud. Oh, I can't explain. I don't have the time to talk about how incredibly speaking to myself has transformed my life. Speaking to myself has energized me and brought out the ingenuity, the genius in me. Speaking to myself, speaking to my mind, speaking to my soul. There's a dimension of it that has to do with self-affirmation. I can't explain. I don't have the time to talk about how self-affirmation, if nobody affirms you, affirm yourself, energizes me and puts me in that place where I'm ready to take up mountains and crumble them, where I can't see impossibilities. No, there is no impossibility. There is only impossible. And so it becomes so important that we become intentional with building bond and connection. And we can achieve that through effective communication. One of our speakers is going to deal with that. And through quality sex life. Quality sex life. No matter the crisis in a relationship, if there is quality sex, it's not likely to collapse. Because the more sex, the more partners dissolve into themselves and become one. That's why you notice in relationships, once there is a crisis, the first place it attacks is the sex life. They begin to go apart. But any couple that are smart, that are intelligent, that are wise, who understand the dynamics of sex and who value their relationship, no matter the crisis, they don't let it come anywhere close to to their matrimonial bed, to their sex life. Because if their sex life is in place, they can conquer almost anything. It's so powerful. It's so amazing that unless we connect, we can't correct. Unless we connect, we can't confront. Unless we connect, we can't, deal with challenges and move to the next level. Connection is so important. Let me close by saying that the next thing we got to do, don't forget the first thing is come together, evaluate the relationship, how it performed last year. Number 2, use your findings, project for the new year with crystal clear plans and strategies. Number 3, endeavor to put in place a strong plan for spiritual fortification of your relationship through spiritual intimacy. It's amazing how many people go to church every day together. They're church workers, they're busy for God, but between them, there is no spiritual intimacy. So there's emotional intimacy, there is spiritual intimacy, there is physical intimacy, there is mental intimacy, and there is social intimacy. So there's intimacy at different levels. I hope that most of our speakers are going to be able to deal with all that. We have 9 sessions, but the areas of discussion are up to 12. If we're not able to cover them in our 9 sessions, we'll see the ones we can carry over to subsequent weeks, and then see how we can cover all of these areas of intimacy. So spiritual intimacy is so important, it's so fundamental, it's so key. Life essentially is spiritual. And so when we fail at the spiritual level, we are failed. If we hold on at the spiritual level, we can deal with, we can combat, we can confront, we can challenge, and we can defeat whatever it is that we got to deal with. I'd like to stop here.